All right, what's up, boys? Happy Thursday. Coming into a big week this week as far as fantasy purposes. I think Tim summed it all up pretty well. And coming off of last week, like I said, I think we're really starting to see those contenders versus pretenders. We got a few teams I think that are sitting pretty. Probably should be feeling real good, as Tim mentioned. We've got some sitting in the middle, or towards the bottom, I guess, at this point than to the middle, because our top four is looking pretty solid, at least with where we stand. Not to say that can't all change. We're early enough in the season where I think anything can happen, but for the purposes of this week and where we currently sit, I think it's pretty polarizing just as far as that big top four currently stands. So, anyways, just to quickly recap last week, I did go 4-0. That's pretty impressive, although it just feels pretty easy at this point in the year. Some of those matchups weren't, a huge stretch for me. Obviously, the blowout, I do better when I start a player that's not going to play than I do when I start all 10 spots. So, 59 points, not something I'm proud of. I'm sure that one will be in the record books for a while. But hopefully that's the bottom and we'll just continue to put brick after brick on the long process. As far as Eve, I mean, that's an impressive performance. Tim, gushed over it a bunch in his video, and I have to do the same. 194 alone, but considering the 260 potential, one starter, not even scoring, it's super impressive. And I think it's just a sign of things to come. This team is pretty complete at this point in the year, so looking really good there. Trust the process gets the win over Mr. Ambassador. This one's definitely bigger. I think as a loss for Mr. Ambassador, Tim's dealing with injuries. I think some losses right now are not super unexpected. I don't think they're going to change the outcome at all at this point, just as far as his playoff potential. But for Sergey, I think this loss really hurts, especially on the heels of losing that tight one to John last week. Sergey, like Tim mentioned as well, always seems to be consistent, but it's getting over that hump. And especially when you're playing these teams that are putting up 150 plus every week, that consistency is kind of working as a detriment at this point when we have those super teams. So I think this is kind of a figure it out time for Sergey. I think there's definitely still time. He could just bide his time, hope for an injury or two up above, and then knock one of those guys out of the playoffs. But got to be feeling a little uncomfortable at this point with a tough matchup coming. Huge Dick, congratulations. Name change, get that first dub. Well deserved. This team has been slowly improving. We're seeing the strengths of the team starting to come out a little bit more. So huge congrats there. And again, another big loss for Full Jerry. Again, Tim mentioned it. John, you've got to have the worst luck as far as fantasy that I've ever seen. And it's funny too, just given that you kind of had the thing where you would trade away players last year that would then get injured right away. It just feels like injuries are that's your thing at this point. So I don't know. It's making it tough, I'm sure, on you to figure out what you're trying to do going forward. But really, really tough scenario for Full Jerry. And then finally, Moncton Meerkats. I finally got on the bandwagon last week. Hopefully, I have a spot on the Moncton Meerkats bandwagon. It's not too full at this point, but yeah, I'm all in on this team, and we continue to see why. There's just strengths across the board. Putting up 166, beating the reigning, defending, undisputed champ in Brady's third dynasty, and beating the dynasty pretty handedly. Just goes to show you how stacked this team is. So, I'm all in. What was it? Whatever the Dolphins' undefeated season. I think the Meerkats have that in the cards. So maybe just put the biggest and worst commissioner curse on you that I ever could have. But I like this team a lot. All right, let's jump ahead into week 6. Week 6, it's crazy. It's already week 6. But anyway, some huge matchups this week. And I think season-altering matchups just for playoff standings and whether teams are ultimately, really having a chance or not. I don't think this is a big surprise to anyone. But especially for Full Jerry, for Mr. Ambassador, are these teams legit? And then even looking at, Brady's third dynasty, Getting another loss here and falling to 500 keeps the door open for John and Sergey just a little bit, even if they lose this week. But if they win, they're right back in it. So some big matchups this week, and I think finally a week where it might be a little bit more difficult on me to make my picks. I think going 4-0 this week would be difficult. So let's start off. Let's start off with the biggest matchup of the week, the preview we've all been waiting for. We've got the toilet bowl preview. We've got Bills Mafia versus Huge Dicka. I'm just going to come out and say it right away, right off the bat. I love the name. It's going to be hard it's a hard one to beat. I love it. I mean, I'm going with Huge Dicka here. Both of our teams might be ass, although his is looking better and better every week. But the name just sends it to the next level. So, I'm expecting big performances from the quarterbacks on Huge Dicka. Like Tim mentioned, I think, is Olave healthy? We'll have to see. That was a scary looking one. So hopefully he's back and good to go. And just looking for more production for some of those old guys. But yeah, I'm curious to see. I mean, we're getting close. Whatever the trade deadline is, week 12, I believe. We're halfway there. I'm interested to see if we start to see any moves as far as selling teams. And Huge Dick is probably the top of the list here. I would think Travis would want to accrue some more assets, but who knows? So that's pretty much what I'm looking at there. As Tim mentioned, every week with my team, it's just hoping to see a rookie break out or be more productive. So that's what I'm looking for as well. And then, hopefully Isaiah McKenzie goes off so I can get some halfway decent offers. So anyways, taking Huge Dicka there, no question. I think Travis will roll in this one. All right, let's look at the next very important matchup, although one I'm not anticipating being close. We're gonna talk full Jerry versus Cup to Canada. I'm going Cup to Canada in this one. I feel like I repeat a lot of what Tim talks about, but Geno Smith has been a revelation this year. Can he keep it up? It's hard to bet on that, but he's looking like he could easily put up those solid QB2 numbers that Eve would like for the longevity of this season with some really good weeks sprinkled in. As far as looking at John, it's really just, can we see some luck? Can we see some breakouts? Can we see a healthy week? Because this team does have a lot of talent. It's just it's not being strung together, and we're seeing the fantasy gods just rain down on this team. So just a clean week, I think, at this point, with a full lineup of players that are able to get through the week without an injury would be a win for John. Not to say that this team doesn't have upset potential. It absolutely does. But I don't think it's going to happen this week. And with Cup to Canada, I think, all we can expect is another huge performance this week. All right, next one we're going to look at Moncton Meerkats versus Mr. Ambassador. So first off, I'm going Moncton Meerkats in this matchup. Like I said, I'm fully on the bandwagon here. I want to see him run the table, even though that's kind of counterintuitive to my own purposes. But I love the makeup. I love going all in right off the bat. Everything about this team looks solid across the board. I think the biggest thing for Moncton Meerkats is health, but that's not a problem. So we're not even going to mention that anymore. I think I said that last week. Sorry about that. But further, the QB2 play, I think it's an area that's just overall lacking in the NFL. So, of course, it'd be reflected in our league. But as far as, what we're looking at here, starting Matt Ryan currently this week, Dak Prescott hopefully coming back, although that's going to be an interesting situation just with how well Cooper Rush has played. So we could see some drama there. On the other side of the ball, Jalen Hurts looks unreal. The growth that he made over this last year is very impressive. And Sergey, a lot of these guys, whether it's age or whether it's just down years, are not performing the way we, expected them to. Joe Mixon in particular, I think he seems to have fallen off and that whole Cincinnati offense. So it's very hard to put it on him, but not the output I know Mr. Ambassador was hoping for. But he does have some guys that he's picked up or had as throw-ins on trades that have done really well. James Robinson, for one, Alan Lazard, obviously a great pickup. So I think this will be a close matchup. I'm just quickly scanning to see if we have any Monday night guys. Yeah, so Eckler on Monday night. I think it's probably going to come down to that. And Cortland Sutton. So yeah, expect Mr. Ambassador to probably have a pretty sizable lead going into Monday night, but I do expect Moncton Meerkats to pull it out. Let's hope it's late on Monday night just for some drama. We need some drama. All right, and lastly, who do we have here? Trust the Process versus Brady's Third Dynasty. Now, this is going to be a fascinating matchup. I know Tim is still shorthanded, which is unfortunate, but the ramifications of this matchup are huge. I'm not the statistics guy, but just looking at potential moving forward, this one could have some interesting circumstances. So, looking at Tim, if Tim is able to pull out this win, go to 5-1, that would push Brady's Third Dynasty to 3-3. A decision would have to be made, I would think, for Ryan, whether or not he truly believes in this team, not only to make the playoffs, but to truly be a contender. Sitting at 3-3, that's going to be something he's going to have to ponder because there are a lot of pieces on this team if he chose to go that route. But it's also a stacked team just in its own right with some down years and some guys that haven't quite figured it out going yet this year. So I think that would be interesting. Now, if Ryan goes to 4-2, Tim drops to 4-2 as well. I think it's a completely different outlook here. Ryan's probably sitting pretty just, steady Eddie, maybe trying to buy a piece or two. Tim just needs his guys to get healthy. I don't think Tim really even knows what the full potential of his team is. So this one's going to be very interesting. I did a few breakdowns. There's some very interesting matchups just as far as specifically wide receiver matchups. So looking at Ryan, Jamar Chase going up against Marshawn Lattimore. These two go at it. Obviously, Lattimore in the Saints secondary, very good shutdown corner. We'll have to see what that looks like with Jamar Chase. T. Higgins obviously banged up. I'm not even sure if he's playing. Looks like he's currently questionable. So if he doesn't play, that gives a lot of opportunities to double Jamar, which obviously would not look good for Ryan. But even on his own, Lattimore is a tough get. However, looking at the other side, Tim's got 3 wide receivers that have some very challenging matchups. Justin Jefferson going up against Xavier Howard in Miami, another lockdown corner. A.J. Brown going up against Trayvon Diggs. Now, this one's boom or bust, as we've seen with Trayvon. He really goes for those interceptions, which sometimes puts him in bad situations. So we'll have to see if A.J. Brown's able to take advantage of that. But Trayvon on his own is a very good defender playing Sunday night. This should be a very interesting matchup overall for this one. And then finally, Drake London has a tough matchup as well, though it looks like Tim doesn't currently have him starting, going up against Charvarius Ward in the Niners secondary, who's always solid. So this one I've gone back and forth on, but I'm going to have to go Brady's Third Dynasty. The deciding factor on this one is the commissioner curse. I'd love to get the extra lottery pick from the dynasty and just, see him kind of fall out of playoffs. But I still think, Tim's guys have got some tough matchups. And I think the edge then goes to Brady's Third Dynasty. So just to recap, we're going to go Huge Ditka, Moncton Meerkats, Cup to Canada, and Brady's Third Dynasty. At this point in the year, it really seems like the Canadians are just running away with this league. Very impressive overall performances. So keep it up, boys. I want to echo the compliments that Tim bestowed on the Bills' offense. Don't overlook the Bills' defense either, as Kenny Pickett and the entire Pittsburgh Steelers offense found out. Matchup of the year. Everybody enjoy the afternoon Kansas City Buffalo rematch. Should be a fun one. Not expecting the same. Well, I don't think anyone could ever expect the same offensive output, but look for the defenses to step up and look for the Bills to get a pretty sizable win on their way to the Super Bowl. So, that's all for me. I'm out.